This episode of the podcast is sponsored by David Shapiro, Remax Around Atlanta Realty. David Shapiro, Remax Around Atlanta Realty. He knows inside the perimeter, outside the perimeter. Tonight we had on Kyle Miller of Zero Mile, an awesome conversation about the business behind the concerts we go to and all of the things that go in between those lines. Excited to share it with you. Roll the motherfucking tape. All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back into Indiebnb. Today we have a little bit of a change up. Somebody who's a little bit more behind the scenes, but still involved in the indie music community. Kyle Miller of Zero Mile. We got hooked up with you through Nick Carpenter of That Is Medium Build. And Kyle, how's it going today? How has your year been? We excited for Thanksgiving.
Dude, first of all, thanks for having me. So stoked to be here. And yeah, man, it's been a great day. I'm working a show right now, covering one of my smaller 300 cap shows I booked down at Vinyl in Midtown. And so stoked for Thanksgiving and stoked to have 3 or 4 days off of work.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. Well, obviously, I mentioned Zero Mile, a big, production company, but I really want to, if you can break it down for us, what is Zero Mile? Where does it play a role in, the venues that we go to around here in Atlanta? And if you can give me just a zoom out overview, that'd be awesome to kind of for us to get going and understand a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So Zero Mile is we're a promoter. We're a promotions company. We own a few venues here in Atlanta. We own Terminal West, Variety Playhouse in the Eastern, and then over in Athens, we own the Georgia Theater. And real meat and potatoes of it, we book shows at these venues and then we promote them and try to make money off of them, whether it's from the door or some of the ticket fees or off of bar sales, since we own the venues. And I personally work on the talent buying side of it, so me and a couple other colleagues do all the buying for all the venues. And then we have a ticketing team that does all that, and a big marketing team that just handles all of the marketing from announce to, day of show, making sure that people know that the show exists and buy tickets to it.
Beautiful. So you guys got kind of a three-headed monster: the ticketing, you got talent buying, and we got the actual promotion and marketing. So
yeah, that's like the real zoomed out. But then there's even deeper. Since we own the venues, we have the venue staff and all those people that we work super closely with, and just on budgeting and how much it costs to run a show, and budget goals for the year and all that good stuff. And that's just when it gets real grimy and people's eyes start rolling to the back of their head.
All right, we'll stick off the budgets tonight, but I do want to understand, for you as a talent buyer, and Nick, of course, Medium Build had given us a little bit of background. You had worked in New York as well, and you were in the same capacity. Is that how you kind of got started, or how did you get into this specific role?
So when I was in New York, I was working at Paradigm Talent Agency. So I was working as an agency assistant for an agent who did mostly EDM and electronic stuff. Not as much my wheelhouse, but it's essentially the same, different side of the same coin. When you're on the agency side, you're representing the artists and selling the artists to the venue. And now being a talent buyer, I'm representing the venues and trying to I negotiate with the agents every day and try to come to some deal terms to book the artists in my particular rooms.
Wow. Okay. Now, obviously you've been on both sides of it. What are I guess what are some of the best deal? What are some of the hardest negotiations, and what are some of those terms that end up getting to be either the thing that gets it through or the thing that holds it up? What are those terms end up being? The rider, or is it what
No,
is it?
it's all about money. It's all about money. And at the end of the day, at least with Terminal West, my main competitors in that capacity space in Atlanta are Masquerade, Hell, and the Loft at Center Stage. Both of them are 600 capacity rooms, and it's a lot about the relationships that you have with the agents. Sometimes even if you're not the room that's offering the most money on a particular artist, the agent might have a better relationship with you and want to stick the show with you. And work up the artist in your venue system, or, some agents are, don't really bank on the relationship as much. And it's just, I'm bidding on these artists and how much I think they're worth. And,
Yeah.
At what point do I need to tap out and say, hey, I can't make money on the show at this point. Let the competitor take it.
Interesting. So of those people who you have relationships with, like, how did those form? Were those formed just by, you book a show and they've kind of like grown up? Like, I like that grown up kind of mentality. So talk more about that. Like, who is somebody you've seen recently that you booked early at Terminal West that has grown up to the Eastern or grown up to these other venues?
Yeah. So, I mean, even smaller than Terminal West, like what I'm doing exactly right now is, I don't have a 300 capacity room that Zero Mile owns. And,
Yeah.
there's some of those throughout town, like Aisle 5 and Smithsville Bar and the
Oh, yeah.
Earl and Vinyl and Purgatory. And I'll sometimes go do shows at those rooms for artists that I'm like particularly passionate about, or have a good relationship with the agent, and, want to start developing these artists even before they're ready for a Terminal West play. And some of those artists that we've even started in the 300 cap space, we did Faye Webster's first, true headline show at the Earl like 4 years ago, and she just sold out 2 nights of Variety Playhouse this past weekend. Omar Apollo, who we just had at the Eastern last week as well. We had him from Terminal West up to Variety, up to the Eastern, which, it's one of our first artists, since the Eastern is such a new room, that's truly played and sold out all 3 of our, our owned and operated rooms here in town. But it's one of the most fun parts about the job is, you kind of like develop this history with these artists that you, especially if you're early on, like early investor in the artists themselves. So you kind of get to be there on the ground level and at least locally help them grow their audience, and, hopefully see it through to, whatever room they ultimately, can sell out.
Sure. Yeah. One of the things you said there, like, so you'll do, like, if I'm, if I'm an artist who, and I know you, I come to you and say, hey man, I want to sell it. I want to do a 300 person room, but I know you don't have one. Like, do you recommend me to that room, or do you help promote my show to Smithsville Bar, or just do whatever you're doing right now? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So it goes both ways. Sometimes, like, if it's a local band, or, an artist that's really, it's got some time before they're ready to play Terminal West, sometimes I'll reach out to the venue. I might reach out to Dan Nolan at Smithsville Bar and be like, hey Dan,
Sure.
like, this artist is a little early for me to be working on. If you want to take the first couple shows, would gladly kind of steer the agent towards your room. And then when it's ready for them to play Terminal West, I'll kind of scoop in there and, and start working from there. But, you know, like the show tonight, I booked, I'm here at the venue. I bought the hospitality for the band. I'm paying them at the end of the night. So this one is one of my shows that, I was like, okay, yeah, let's get in early on this one. And, this one is one of our shows.
Cool. Now, like, I love the idea of, like, them growing up in the venue. I think one of the people that I've seen do this, obviously a local band that we've talked to, the Hedonistas, like, they have tremendously grown up. Obviously, Jake worked at Terminal West, so he's got a relationship there, and so talk to me about, like, when you get somebody like that who they have this band, they start getting momentum, they play 420 Fest. Like, at what moment did you go to Jake and we're like, hey man, I think we want you to headline at T West for us for, this festival or that festival or this, show? Like, how was that moment?
Yeah, I mean, like, this is just a funny and kind of a special one, just because, like you said, Jake was a bartender at Terminal West for so many years, and I think that one in particular, we saw them selling out Aisle 5 and some other smaller rooms around town, and, building that momentum, and they're just like, their online presence is so funny and so witty, and, I think that, like, I can't remember when we first did the first Unisa show. I feel like it was back in like 2019, maybe 2020, right before COVID. But yeah, it was like, hey, let's take a swing on this. You're never going to know with exact certainty, like, if someone's really ready to play Terminal West. But, from like what we saw, we're like, hey, this is like one that's close to home for us, because Jake was at Terminal West for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, if there was ever a time to take a swing on this, let's do it. We have a date open and we need an extra show. And let's give it a swing. And, I think the past couple that we've done have done, stronger than we expected. And those kids show up and drink too, which is always good for business.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I was one of those kids that showed up last year, and I would say that I had a full day before I went to the T West. I believe it was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, or Friday night, either one. I think it was Friday night last year, after
You're showing
Thanksgiving.
up cooked.
Oh yeah, man, I was done. But it was, hey, I had fun. I drank a shitload at the show. I came in. I was a patron. That's the beauty of it. And
Yeah, and
so.
like we didn't have. I think they wanted to do the Saturday after Thanksgiving or the Friday after Thanksgiving again this year, but I had already booked something else, and I pitched them. I was like, hey, let's do like 2 days before Christmas. It's a time when like,
Oh,
especially them, like they have a bunch of local fans or fans who live elsewhere but come back to Atlanta that they call home around the
yep.
holidays. Like same thing you're saying. You'll probably be at home drinking with the family and be like, I need to get away from them. Like, let's go to a Hedonistas show December 23rd. So I was like,
Yeah.
it's a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of those guys. Obviously, they've come on the pod here. They were one of the early on people on the pod, with us,
Yeah,
and so.
you guys have had some cool. I was looking back through the catalog. Just noticing some names here and there. I was like, you guys are getting the fun young artists that I'm friends and fans of. So seeing Girl Poppy and Medium Build and CC Coakley and I think was Liz Longley on here too.
Liz Lawrence, Liz
Lawrence.
Lawrence. She's from Europe, so we got a big reach. We'd love to help get some people in. I know that it's all about relationships and getting people over to the right place, and it sounds like getting people to the right place is your expertise. So I might be sending you some people, hopefully here soon, if of just where we can point them in the right direction. But some of those people like that, like, how do you find them? Obviously you're kind of in the scene, you're probably going to a ton of shows, or you're listening to Spotify. Like, I don't know, what is your process to find them? And then, like, what are the key components to somebody being like, all right, they're X amount of followers over, and we've looked at their social media, we think they're good. Like, what are those factors that play into somebody being like, all right, they're ready for Terminal West, or they're a variety artist, or they're a Eastern artist? Like, how do you determine those things?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, backing up a little bit, at least like as far as artist discovery goes, it just comes in so many ways. Like it could be even just finding someone on your Discover Weekly and it kind of hitting your ear in a way that makes you notice it and just getting curious and digging into it a little bit more. And with CC and Nick and some of those other folks, a lot of it's like having friends in the industry that are hearing things or hearing early demos that aren't released yet and are like kind of whispering about it. And just like the industry's so small in reality, it's everyone kind of knows everyone, so word gets around fast. And as soon as there's kind of any sort of heat or any buzz on anyone, it kind of, that word gets around quick, even if it like hasn't really translated into big mainstream success yet. Which is always fun. It always just keeps the everyday a little interesting. As far as like trying to understand how many tickets an artist is going to sell, or like what room they're ready to play, whether it's a Terminal West or if I think that they're bigger than a Terminal West and ready for variety, it's really tough. It's like Instagram followers don't mean they're going to sell tickets, and the same way that like Spotify monthly listeners don't mean that those people are going to buy tickets either. I feel like it's like a lot about engagement. There's so many like playlists these days where people will just kind of Spotify curated playlists. Well, they'll just like listen to artists in the background, and that will count as a monthly listener, but those people really aren't engaging with that artist. So trying to get like a grasp on how big the listenership is, and like of those people, how many people are like actively engaged buying merch, following them on Instagram. It's a combination of everything. And a lot of it really comes down to just having a really good network of other talent buyers that I know throughout the country, and kind of leaning on them in a lot of ways to like just understand whether this art, if any artist has played Columbus, Ohio, I can call my bud Britton and be like, hey Britton, like how many tickets did this sell, what was the crowd like, you think they're going to come back for the next show? And just gauging a temperature on any artist. It just, some of them are slam dunks and pretty quick to figure out that they're huge, and others require a lot more, research and just effort to try to dig up what you're looking for.
Gotcha. Awesome. Back, like, do you get like, again, I'm in sales, so now I'm like discovery, trying to figure out, okay, how would I guess if I'm trying to sell an artist to you, what are some of the metrics, I guess, like I can tell you to be like that'll like knock your socks off, like, hey, we sold 50 t-shirts, or we sold, hey, here's how many tickets we sold at our last show. That's kind of like a similar place than Atlanta. Like, what are some of the cities you look at that are like, all right, if we sold out Nashville, they're going to sell Atlanta out really, really hard. Like, obviously it's not exact science, but
yeah. It's funny. Every agent kind of just has a different style to begin with. Some agents are so cryptic and short in email, and they don't give you any context to the artist. They're like, hey, looking to book Alden on, March 13th. Give me a hold and give me an offer. And I'm like, who the fuck is Alden? And that's when I have to do some deep diving, but like the most solid metrics that any agent can send me is like, hey, we just did 500 tickets in Nashville, or we just did 500 tickets in Dallas. At least, demographically and geographically, I feel like I use Dallas as a pretty similar market to compare Atlanta to. Just, they have a good, hip hop and R&B scene. They kind of get that, and they're not as strong in like the the jam and kind of heady electronic stuff, but country is pretty popular like it is in Atlanta. So it's I use that as a comparison pretty often.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as like getting an immediate understanding of what an artist is worth, like hard ticket sales is gold. But a lot of times agents will keep that pretty close to the chest, because sometimes if there are some like unfavorable finals, ticket sales in there, they'll like definitely try to hide those and hope that you don't do your research and dig those up. But that's not to say that a lot of times if they're trying to hide those ticket sales from you, it might be because it's like an up and coming artist, and those ticket sales might not be like representative of where they are now. So
sure. So like for a band like Hedonistas, who's got a heavy heavy following here in Atlanta, but they would probably play an equivalent or of like Aisle 5 or Smithsville Bar, maybe in some other town. Like, when people call you about them, like, do you make sure that like, hey, like you recommend, you will put them in the right path in order for them to be successful in that city? Or like, obviously that Hedonistas, doesn't matter who it is. Like,
yeah,
what does that look like?
I mean, I think like, first of all, it's just like, even like getting ticket sales from another market, it's so important just to like understand even like the context of those sales, whether that means like, was this on a Monday or was this on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Is this an artist that has roots in the area? Like going back to Columbus, there's a lot of bands that I'll see, like some hardcore bands that do really well in Columbus, and I'll call up Britain and be like, hey, what's the deal with this? Like, why is this doing so well? Is this something to pay attention to? He's like, no, like the new drummer is from Columbus, or is from the Midwest. I went to college here, and just not to say that band won't like sell some tickets in Atlanta, but it's just like, again, just understanding the full the full context of anything that you're seeing.
Sure.
But like Hedonistas, just going back to that, like, yeah, they're playing Terminal West here, and they would probably play, like you said, like a smaller 200, 300 cap room in other rooms. But like, I think I can be like, hey, this band is special. They have something, talking to whether it's a Talpi or Nashville or somewhere else in the region, and just be like, hey, yeah, like I know this band hasn't played in Nashville before, and you should like maybe be a little bit conservative on the deal and just make sure that you're not going to lose money on it. But like, this band's got something, and you should invest in them now and invest in them early.
Yeah. I love that. You have that, the ability to like, you're not making or breaking, but you can definitely give recommendations to get them, get their foot in the door in a lot of places. And that's awesome to, be able to see from both sides. And within like, what was I going to ask about? Like going like somebody who's, oh man, I'm losing my train of thought here. God, I just got so many questions. All right. So, like I want to go back to Always. So I went to Always on Monday night. They absolutely sold out. It was unreal. I don't know if you booked that or whoever booked that did a
Yeah.
fantastic job, but like Slow Pulp and Always, a band from Canada selling out Atlanta on a Monday. Like, I mean, it seems like that is exactly the like just boom, we freaking nailed it here. Like how does that come to be? Like, I mean, obviously do you look at like when they last played Atlanta? Because
Yeah, totally. It's like it's one of the first things I look at, and just like understanding if this is an artist's first time in Atlanta, or when the last time that they played was and how long ago it was. A band like Always, you know, I kind of just think that they have a cult following, and even I think the last time they played Atlanta, we sold out Terminal West, but it was kind of a slow trickle to get to a sellout at Terminal West. But we all kind of felt that band had kind of established this cult following of an audience, and that like there were newer and younger ears that were starting to discover that music. And so we felt super confident putting on it at Variety Playhouse, but we weren't sure. You never know, like if it's going to sell out like that, or if it's going to, kind of like I said, trickle to sell out or close to sell out. And that one just, I think, sold out in a day, and we were just like, whoa, there's something going on here. And the new record was incredible, and having Slow Pulp on the package definitely doesn't hurt the show, because the band's incredible in their own right.
yeah, I mean, I think I loved. I was like, I walked there, I drove in, and like I parked behind the Mexican restaurant, and I'm like walking in, and they're like asking me to. I'm going to Yacht Club before the show, and like they're asking me to get my wristband beforehand, and I'm like, why? And like I go look, and like the line's like down the street, and I'm like, it's Monday. Like, what is going on here? So,
Where did you watch the show? Were you in the pit?
well, I had just recently had knee surgery, so I was up top. I was up in the balcony, and then somebody broke the social contract of everybody sitting in the balcony. So
Oh,
they stood up. So I was standing up top of the balcony. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I've watched many shows from the pit though. Don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah.
Like Fruit
I was,
Bats. You know.
I admittedly am typically pretty bad about getting to shows early and seeing the opening act. If it's something that I've heard about, or if someone else tipped me off, like, yo, you got to get here early and check out this band, then I always normally will. But like that was, and normally when I go to Variety, I'll watch it in one of those corrals on the sides, or kind of watch it from that little that back bar that overlooks over
Sure.
the house. But that was one of the first shows in a while that like I got there 15 minutes after doors, got down in the pit, kind of locked down my area. I was like, I need to be front and center for this. And
Yep.
I'd never seen Slow Pulp play before, and I missed them the last time they played the Earl, I think like 6-7 months ago. So was especially excited for that one, and they just crushed it.
Yeah. I mean, I always am interested, like, how do y'all determine whether like you're gonna have chairs or not? So like for Fruit Bats, for example, you had chairs just on the sides.
Yeah.
I went to a Lucius show probably 2 to 3 years ago. You had chairs out front, instead, chairs out front in the pit. So like, what goes into that, like, and whether y'all are gonna sell different ticket things, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, it's really like all a conversation with the agent, and sometimes the agent has direction. Is like, hey, this is kind of what we want to do. We want to do more of an intimate acoustic show. We want to throw down, seats in all of Variety Playhouse. But sometimes it's us understanding the demographic of the artist, and saying like, hey, like Fruit Bats, while they do have a younger audience, they have some more like older, contemporary folk fans that they'll pay extra for seats. And sometimes, especially that like reserved main section right there on the first floor, kind of those permanent seats. Like if the agent's fighting us on money, and they're like, hey, we need $3,000 more on the front end for the guarantee, and we're like, okay, like we have to kind of assess how much, where we're going to get that money from. And a lot of times it's us charging more for those seats, and trying to understand, like, okay, a Fruit Bats fan who's a little bit older, they might be like in their like early to late 40s, and they might have a little bit of money. I think like we could maybe charge $65 for this, and and not lose a substantial amount of ticket buyers. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes like we overprice those seats and nobody buys them,
Yeah.
and we're like, all right, well, we fucked that one up.
Yeah.
It's a lot of trial and error, but it's, at least for the seats, it's about like understanding the demographic and having that conversation with the agent. Sometimes also it's because Variety Playhouse is like 1,100 capacity, no seats. Sometimes if there's an artist that we're bringing in and we know that they're not going to sell 1,100 tickets, but they're also going to sell more than like the 650 that we could do at Terminal West. If we seat those sides like that,
Yeah.
put the capacity like at a middle ground at like 850, so that suddenly becomes kind of our like stepping stone in between Terminal West and the full capacity of Variety. So
Sure.
it's just playing around with the numbers and
Yeah.
hoping that works out.
You don't need to tell us who the artist was or anything like that, but what is the biggest like loss on a show? Like, was it, and what day was it on? And like, obviously all those factors probably play.
It sucks. It's like one of my favorite artists, and it was like this last January, so almost a year ago. It's I'm not gonna say the number that I lost, but it was a Jason Isbell show, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I have a good relationship with his agent Andrew, and Colvin, his agent Andrew Colvin, came to me and was like, "Hey, we want to add a last minute Jason Isbell show at the Georgia Theater," and he had just sold out like 3 nights at the Tabernacle, and I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it!" And he's like, "The date we need is 2 weeks away from right now," and I was like, "Okay." Let's take a swing on it. I was feeling like a gambling man that day. And Isbell doesn't come cheap. Jason Isbell is a superstar and deserves every dollar that, he's ever gotten. So made a big bet on it. And, I think just coming out of the holidays and a bunch of different factors and having just played Atlanta, I just didn't sell what it should have. And, that was my first like big loss. And I was like, losing sleep over it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so terrifying.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, just lucky that it wasn't my own money and that I work for a promoter that I'm using their money.
Sure. What now, like, for example, how does the payment work? So like, just as an artist, I come in, I'm getting a guarantee, and then do I get part of booze? Do I get, obviously I get whatever merch I sell, but like, how does the split work? I know we didn't want to get into budgets too much.
No. The most common deal is, a guarantee versus 85% after expenses. And that guarantee can be anywhere from, $500 up to $100,000. And it's just, that guarantee is like kind of where I'm setting my expectation for like, okay, I think that this artist is worth this many tickets. I'm going to put the guarantee right here. And if they sell more than that, then, they'll get that back end, as we call it, once they cover expenses and get into points. And that's when they're starting to make more than the guarantee. But yeah, no artists get booze sales is kind of something that like every promoter around the country is like taking a firm stance on, just because that's like in reality how we make like all of our money.
Yeah.
I mean, even like on an Eastern show, we're making a couple bucks at the door, but like, a lot of it's coming from bar.
What, now who are some people that are just clinical over producers? They always get that those back end points. Like I gotta think that not always, but Wet Leg, when you had them at Variety, I was at that show as well. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen more people there, and I was shocked that there was like, I was like, my buddy Tash and I, who co-hosts this, he's not here tonight because of he's got his shoulder, but he goes, dude, this should have been at the Eastern. I'm like, I think it could have been at the Eastern as well. Like,
yeah, I mean, man, you're calling out the 2 shows in the past 6 months I've been in the pit for at Variety, and it was Wet Leg and I take it back. I was there. I was in the pit for Waxahachie too, but
Yeah.
Wet Leg, Waxahachie, and Always, and Wet Leg, like pretty similar story to Always, but
They've never been here.
no one knew. Chase Lounge and what was the second single? They came out and people ate them up, but no one knew if that was going to turn into like real ticket sales. And
Yeah.
that show sold out in seconds, and we were like, Jesus Christ, here's these this British band that didn't exist even a year ago, and we should have moved it up to the Eastern, but they wanted to wait till the next time to play the Eastern. I think they were some bands will like play it conservative, and they want every room to be sold out in every market, just so they have that big old poster that shows
sold out,
the red X through every venue and just says sold out. And there's like huge value to that. And they probably could have made more money if they moved up venues and played the Eastern, but there's just that clout and the flex of having that.
Yeah.
Every room sold out. So
yeah, I mean, I was blown away. But then you have a band like that, and then they just come out of they just pop up out of nowhere. Like who do you and we'll ask this later on the Pete Peterson. So just start thinking about some bands that we might not know that I need to make sure I'm on the ZM pre-sale for, and make sure that I'm grinding.
Dude, I love that you're on the ZM pre-sale. That like when you and I were texting last night and you said that, I got a real laugh and but sometimes like I don't know, it's so easy just to like bury your nose in your laptop and be like, yeah, I know people are going to these shows, but like who knows if people are actually noticing the work you're doing. And I do the ZM pre-sale for every show I do, and as as the local pre-sale code that we email out to everyone. So like to hear it come from someone that I didn't know, I was like, it's just
people do it. Hey, I'm all about the ZM pre-sale. I just I did it for I'm coming to Rainbow Kitten on December 31st. So when you book something like that, like I've been to other ones like that. I went to Humphreys with at the Tabernacle a few years ago, and it was like a 30th show, so they had a couple different night run. But like when they do a run like that, like is that all three booked separately, or is that all, hey, you get a guarantee for these four, and then whatever y'all make on the other side of them, like let's
go. They're all bundled into one deal. I don't think I've ever worked on something that had them dealed out separately. Even on something like Rainbow Kitten Surprise or Humphreys, like you're talking about, even if like the New Year's Eve ticket is way more expensive than the 30th and the 29th, we can still bundle those all up into one deal and just be able to all look at the math in one little flash instead of breaking them out.
Gotcha.
But that one was interesting because RKS canceled all of those fall dates for mental health reasons, and we had that the New Year's Eve shows booked 6-7 months ago. I can't remember exactly when, but so when they canceled those fall dates, we were kind of left in limbo as to like whether they were going to keep the New Year's Eve or whether those were getting canceled as well. And I think it was kind of a game time decision from the band whether they thought that they were going to be good to go by then. And when those stuck, we the whole office was really excited about it. Got 3 big shows at our biggest venue on New Year's Eve. So, and especially a band that like Rainbow Kitten is another example of a band that we started out at Terminal West. I think we actually even started them like on the Georgia Theater rooftop.
Yeah.
Earlier.
God.
Those rooftops, the Georgia Theater rooftop especially has some like kind of crazy history of some like smaller country artists playing there like 10 years ago before they were worth like anything.
Yeah, interesting. Well, let me tell you one guy I always try to put people on. Like it's not even somebody who's been on the podcast. We'd love to get him on, but 49 Winchester. If you, I'm telling you, I was there at the Smith Siswell Bar Show. My buddy, who's like the country whisperer, he's like we went to school in Macon, and he was like, hey man, you need to come to the Sturgill Simpson show. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to some country show in Macon, man. Like he was playing at the Bull, which is our local, like the bar that's like this big, whatever. And turns out he's been right about Sturgill. I think he's right about 49. I think he'll end up being massive eventually. But like I just he's incredible. Marty's like I can't unbelievable but I went to 49 at Smith's and I was like, man, like this guy's not going to play this venue like ever again.
Yeah.
And
Well,
those
first
are
of
the
all,
shows you're
that was one of my shows too. So thanks for being there. That's like I'd kind of like listened to some of your other, bits and pieces of other episodes of the podcast. And I knew this was going to be one of the questions. I didn't want to be stumped on like, who my favorite up and coming artists were. And I'm literally looking at my notes app right now, and 49 Winchester's the top of my list.
Let's go. Well, hey,
nail on the head with that one.
hold them for a second, man. That obviously that feels good for me because I'm like, God, I knew I need to mention that guy.
Yeah, they just had one of their songs was just on Yellowstone this past weekend too.
Oh, geez. Well, I mean,
which is just Yellowstone as a TV show is just proven to be like the new tastemaker for like young outlaw country. Like Zach Bryan had some songs on there. Shane Smith and the Saints had some songs on there, and pretty much any artist that's had music on there has come back to Atlanta and like tripled their sales, which has just been, so it's super exciting to see that the 49 got a song on there.
Yeah, I love that. Well, look, we could go all day. I want to make sure we get to that question in Pete Peterson's party pack of questions. So we'll get right into that. So Pete Peterson's party pack of questions. So it's gonna be 20 questions right in a row. It's this or that. And so we're gonna flip through and it'll be really quick. So 3, 2, 1, here we go. Cake or pie?
Pie for sure.
Powerade or Gatorade?
Gatorade.
Night in or night out?
Night out.
Would you rather hit a home run or score a touchdown?
Oh, hit a home run, man. That's gotta feel so good.
Tenders or wings?
We're going wings.
Okay. Ranch or blue cheese?
Ooh, ranch.
Toast or bagels?
Man, there's such a hierarchy to both, but we're going bagels because there's a higher upside to bagels.
I like that. All right. When you walk into a party and your jam comes on, are you doing the robot or are you doing the worm?
We're doing the robot. I wish I could do the worm. I'm just not coordinated in that.
Okay. Guacamole or queso?
Doing guac.
Guac. Sunrise or sunsets?
Sunset.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Definitely coffee.
All right. IHOP or Wahoo? I know this is a dumb one, but
I know. I listened to Becca's. I listened to Girl Puppies, and she said something about IHOP. I'm like, what are you talking about, Becca? Like, she was one of the first people I've heard like defend IHOP. I didn't know that there was a case that even IHOP was anywhere close to Waffle House. So dying on that hill.
okay.
Waffle.
I like it. Aliens, are they real?
Yeah.
Bigfoot, is he real?
I want him to be, but probably not.
Okay. Is Love at First Sight real?
Yes.
Okay. Chips or pretzels?
Chips.
Chips. Okay. I like that. Acoustic or electric? What sets do you like better?
Ooh, I hate it when I don't know. Stick in your lane, We're going acoustic. I'm an upright bass. I played upright bass growing up. I gotta stick to my roots,
Love it. Love it. Dogs or cats?
We're going cats.
Cats. Oh, fries or tots?
I think French fries, honestly. Tots are great, but I love a good fresh cut French fry.
All right. I like it. All right. And our final question of Pete Peterson's party pack questions, of course, are the bands that we need to check out. We don't know. This guy is the authority, one of the bigger authorities we've ever had. I want to build up everything he says at this moment. Let's go. Kyle Miller, who are our bands we need to check out? Just give us 2.
Oh, 2. All right. Oh man. All right. We're going Toledo. New record that just came out. One of my favorite records of the year. Incredible record. Right out of Brooklyn, New York. Other band is this band called The Heavy Heavy. Okay. I just got turned on to them a couple weeks ago. Their agent sent it over to me. I'd never heard it before and put it on and was just immediately floored by it. It's like this British duo, male and female vocals, and it's like kind of like heady retro soul music.
Love that. Love that. All right. Toledo and the Heavy Heavy. Those are Kyle Miller's two bands we need to check out that we might not know. Kyle, last question for you. Not a part of Pete Peterson, of course, that he had conquered that. Dream billing. All right. You get 3 artists.
Oh,
You know, finances is not a factor. The fact that they're alive or dead is not a factor. They are
whoa.
they are playing at the Eastern. So who are we talking to?
Man, I need the band, bring Levon Helm back from the dead, throw them on.
Okay.
Um man, I think you go Fleet Foxes from there. Man, I don't even know if that's right. And throw Talking Heads on there too, and that's dream come true.
Wow.
I need David Byrne and Levon Helm and Robin Pecknold all doing a superset encore at the end of the night.
Wow. What a combo. I love that. I love that, man. Well, Kyle, I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome and just so much insight into what goes on and into, how we walk into a show every time, what happens behind the scenes and the line of work that goes in. So we appreciate you shedding some light on that and, look forward to, any and all 0 mile shows here in Atlanta. That is, of course, Terminal West. It is the Eastern. It is Variety Playhouse. Am I missing any right there? Those all 3 of those major ones. Those are the big 3. So if you were going to any of those shows, you are seeing something that Kyle and his team have put on, and so excited to share some more time with him. Hopefully we can have him back on again, and we'll update all the things that we've talked about today. So Kyle, appreciate you having on, brother.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. Let's catch a show and grab a grizz at Elmere sometime.
Love that. I love that.